So please get us up to speed with the latest in Kherson. Are civilians leaving or not?
It's really hard to tell what's really happening there on the ground because we have little information, and what's happening is really confusing because it's Russia. On one hand, we have Russian President Putin saying that all civilians must leave the city of Kherson, and on the occupational authorities of Russia, they declare the round-the-clock curfew and then cancel it within hours without explaining anything about this. We know that Russian military in Kherson area on the right bank of the Dnipro River under Russian occupation. Some of them are leaving, some of them are appropriating civilian boats to cross the river. Some of them are getting facilities to cross the river border, the river crossing, and at the same time we see a lot of Russian forces getting ready for steady defense. So it's a very, very confusing conflagration between what they say and what's happening really on the ground. And there's a lot of chaos and mayhem about this. So it's very characteristic about the Russian government in general, about the Russian military. So it's a big question what's happening there. If they are really leaving, which is not likely given the significance of Kherson for the Russian occupation, or they are playing some sort of a deception game in this regard, or it's just about very usual Russian mayhem.
Yeah, there's a lot of suspicion that this is a deflection tactic. Is that just concentrated around this major city, perhaps to try and ambush the Ukrainian forces or confuse them about the status? Or is this a wider picture to do with the war in Ukraine, that they're trying to focus attention on Kherson and not elsewhere?
It's mostly about the Kherson region, more exactly the right bank of Dnipro, where Russian forces and the city of Kherson occupied. They are sort of isolated, or the supplies and the connection between the banks of Kherson are extremely complicated. So it's very hard for them to really supply the military grouping on the right bank. The river crossing are very problematic. They are probably capable of supplying only 30% of their forces, but they still getting their forces reinforced in that region. They do not apparently want to give up without a fight, and at the same time, there's a lot of hot air, a lot of panic. There's a lot of caution among the occupational authorities. So it's mostly about this region, and it's a very confusing thing. We know that it's really complicated, and it consumes on them lots of resources to stay on the right bank of the Dnipro, but at the same time they are not going to leave without a fight. So it's mostly about this region. Yeah.
Well, of course, it's obvious why they would want to defend it being such a strategic port city. We know Kyiv's forces have been steadily advancing on the city. How far away are they? When could we possibly see a major battle erupt over the city?
Yesterday, there was a news that Ukrainian forces took yet another small village, a really small town in Kherson region. But we haven't seen very large advances on the Ukrainian side for quite a long time, for several weeks, in many ways because of the rainy season that really complicates the hostilities, but also because of the thing that Russians, over the last few weeks, they greatly amplified their forces, the isolated forces on the bank. And basically, they have concentrated the largest and the most powerful military group in close to Kherson, mostly with the most combat capable airborne forces. The thing is that we do expect some boost in hostilities with the end of the rainy season, probably in the coming weeks, because the weather should be better in the coming weeks. And definitely, Ukrainians are having now an advantage in terms of artillery. So probably there will be something new in the coming weeks, hopefully.